In Activity 4, An Ant Farm, students observe a colony of ants as they build a home. They examine the anatomy and observe the behavior of ants, and then learn about the social life of an ant colony. You will need the following materials from the kit. Activity Sheet 4, Magnifiers, Ant Farm with dowel, sand, and dropper, Vial of ants, 10-ounce container, ant transparency, and vials with caps. You will also need to provide measuring teaspoon, sugar, scissors, and spring water. To prepare for the activity, read the instructions for ordering and caring for living materials in the Advanced Preparation and Materials Management sections at the front of this guide, as well as the directions that come with the Ant Farm kit. Make a copy of Activity Sheet 4 for each student. Prepare a sugar solution by mixing 1 teaspoon of sugar with 6 ounces of water in a 10-ounce container. Place the vial with ants in a refrigerator for about 15 minutes until ants seem sluggish. Then, uncap the vial. Pour a few ants into each vial and place a cap on each vial immediately. Prepare the ant farm by turning it upside down and removing the base. Cut off a small corner of the bag of sand and carefully pour the sand into the ant farm. Replace the base, making sure it snaps into place firmly. Then, turn the ant farm right side up and remove the top frame. Using the dowel, push the cotton stoppers halfway into the sand, thus starting the tunnels for the ants. Replace the top frame securely. To begin Session 1, tell the class that they will be studying another type of animal, ants, to see how they live. Explain that insects are animals with 6 legs and 3 body parts, and that ants are one kind of insect. Distribute a magnifier and a vial of ants to each team of 2. Tell students not to open the vials because the ants will escape. Allow students time to observe the ants at close range through the magnifier lenses. Next, distribute a copy of Activity Sheet 4 to each student and project the ant transparency. Point out the 3 body parts, the head, thorax, and abdomen, the 6 legs, and the structures on the ant's head, the mandibles, mouth, eyes, and antennae or feelers. Have students identify them on the ants in their vials and label the body parts on their activity sheets. Next, have each team count how many ants are in their vial and record this number on their activity sheets. Then, add up the class total and have students write the total on their activity sheets. If the ants are moving actively in the vials, place the vials in a refrigerator for 5 to 10 minutes to slow them down again. Next, ask students, what do you think ants need in their home in order to live? Students will probably suggest that ants usually live in the ground and will need a place where they can dig tunnels. They may also say that ants need food, water, shelter, and air. Show students the prepared ant farm and point out the sand in which the ants can tunnel and build shelters, and the tiny holes in the lid so they can breathe. Ask students, do you think this home will provide the ants with what they need? Students may suggest that both food and water must be added to the farm for the ants. Show students the sugar water solution you have prepared and have them add it to the ant farm, 1 dropperful at a time. Place the ants in the farm by removing the caps from the vials and shaking the ants into the top part of the farm. Then place the ant farm in a safe place in the classroom where it will not be disturbed, but where it can be easily observed. Next, have students predict what they think the ants will do in the farm and have them write their predictions on their activity sheets. The ants will quickly begin to build tunnels in the sand. Point out to students how the ants tap one another with their antennae when they meet. Explain that this is how they communicate. Finally, every day for the next 2 weeks, have students observe the ants as they develop a home in the ant farm. Keep a log of students' observations. Encourage them to formulate questions about the ants and their behavior. Every 2 to 3 days, add 5 to 6 drops of spring water to the ant farm through one of the caps on the top of the frame. Once a week, drop in 3 or 4 flakes of the ant food, or a tiny piece of bread or fruit. To conclude Session 1, wash and air dry the vials and caps and return them, along with magnifiers, to the kit. Collect the activity sheets for use in Session 2. To begin Session 2, inform the class that a colony is a special kind of animal population, a group of animals that live and work together closely, similar to the ants in the ant farm. Go on to explain to students that ants in a wild colony are separated into 3 different groups: the queen, drones, and workers. And each type of ant has a particular job to do. The queen ant lays the eggs from which new ants are born. The drones are males that mate with the queen. And the worker ants do all the work that needs to be done. Then ask students, which kinds of ants do you think we have in our ant farm? Students will have noticed by now that all of the ants have been building the tunnels and thus must all be worker ants. Next, ask students, what is the population of the ants in our ant farm? They may know that the number of ants is the population. Have students help you try to count the number of living ants in the ant farm. This can be tricky, since many ants are often out of sight in the tunnels. Ask students, how is the population of ants in the ant farm changing, and why? Students will have found that the population is decreasing as ants die. Then ask, do you think the population of ants in the ant farm will increase? Students should realize that without a queen to lay eggs, the ants will not reproduce and increase their population. Finally, have students complete their activity sheets. To conclude Session 2, the ant farm can be kept in the classroom indefinitely. The ants are likely to live for 3 to 4 months in most cases, with regular additions of food and water. For science background, reinforcement activities, curriculum connections, and information about the Delta Science Reader, please consult your DSM Teacher's Guide.